All right. Let me behave real quick. Get into character. All right. So my name is Michael DeLu, and you are now tuned in to Pull Up the Tape. All right. I start this show off with the exact same way every single day. First thing I like to do is thank everybody who's supporting me right now. I know it's not a lot of people, but the small core fans and base that I do have, I really want to thank you. I really do appreciate you a lot. All right, before I get into the politics of today's show, which is going to be a little short today, I would like to ask that if you are following me and listening to this podcast on any of these platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, do me a favor and share this podcast with somebody that you know that loves sports, whether it's your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your teammate, the coach, the team manager, the water boy. Share this podcast with anybody that you know that loves sports. And if you're watching this podcast on my YouTube channel, Pull Up the Tape, do me a favor and like this video, comment on the video, and subscribe to this channel and hit the bell notification. All these things that I just said only take a couple seconds, okay? So, and if you do that, it'll help me boost up within the YouTube algorithm and help me grow my channel and everything that I'm trying to do. So those simple things will help me a long way, and I would really appreciate if everybody who's listening and watching could do that. All right. Once again, thank you very much, and let's get into politics. So today, Chris Jones, for those of you who don't know, he is probably the best defender that the Kansas City Chiefs have. He's their all-pro defensive tackle, and he was on. Let me get the exact outlet. Yikes. I don't know off the top of my head, but as I was watching Get Up earlier this morning, he was quoted on some local radio publication in Kansas City and he said, once his deal was signed, it's a done deal for the rest of the league. Not one, not two. This is exactly what he said. Not one, not two, not three, not four, not five rings that him and the Kansas City Chiefs will be winning over the course of the next decade in the NFL. And although I do agree that Kansas City will probably be amongst the elite teams for the foreseeable future, I think it's absolutely ludicrous and crazy for him to say that. Considering the fact that how many things have to go your way for you to win a championship in any sport, let alone football. Like it's so common for us to see a team that made the Super Bowl not even make the playoffs the next year. The Rams, the Jags, the Eagles. Like that's a very common thing. And also, I think that it's honestly like it just doesn't really make sense for him to say that. I understand that they do have a assortment of some of the best talent in the league at every single position: quarterback, receivers, running backs, tight ends. Like all the people they have at these positions are elite caliber players. But the nature of football and the nature of the NFL playoffs, it's a one game elimination. Like anybody can get got. Anybody could get their number pulled, their card punched. Like, you know what I mean? Like I think that's a little crazy for him to say. But I do. If he would have said, we'll be competing for Super Bowls for the next couple of years, 100%. But for him to say off the rip, they're gonna win a Super Bowl, like win consecutive Super Bowl. Like, first of all, I can name countless great teams that didn't do that. The Patriots never won. I don't think the Patriots didn't win back-to-back Super Bowl. The last time they were back-to-back Super Bowl champion was, I think, the 03-04 season or something like that. I believe. I could be wrong. How many teams have actually even went to back-to-back Super Bowls? Not really many, to be honest. Like, okay, who's went to back-to-back Super Bowls? The Patriots did it. And the Patriots did it. Yeah, the Patriots did it. The Patriots were the last team to do it, and before the Patriots, it was I believe the Seahawks. So the Patriots did it. They went back-to-back Super Bowls in 2017. They went to back-to-back Super Bowls in 2017, 2018. 2017, they beat the Falcons. Only got, how many things had to go right for the Patriots to win that game after falling down 21-3? And then the next year they played the Eagles, but unfortunately for Tom Brady, even though he threw for the most passing yards in Super Bowl history. Oh, I think Patrick Mahomes just beat that. He might have just beat that. Even though he threw for the most yards in Super Bowl history, they still lost to the Eagles. You know how many things have to go right for the Eagles to win that? All right, now if I want to jump back to the Seahawks went to the Super Bowl in 2013 and 2014. You know how many things went? No. The game against the Broncos, the Seahawks absolutely dominated. But the next game against the next Super Bowl against the Patriots, you know how many things had to go right for the Patriots to win that game? One of the most dumbest play calls in NFL history had to happen for the Patriots to win that game. If the Seahawks would have just gave Marshawn Lynch the ball, they would have been back-to-back Super Bowl champions. Like, I wholeheartedly, everyone believes that. It's not even just me. I wholeheartedly believe that. So, my bad. I messed those up. It's 2014, 2015. That's when the Seahawks went to the Super Bowl. So, given the track record, and even look at the Saints. Look at how many things go wrong for them every single year as they're deep in the playoffs, for them to almost, on their quest to try and win a championship. So, given that fact, I don't think it's even. It's laughable that he would get on a national publication to say something like that. Laughable, like ha 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 ha. But hey, he's entitled to his own opinion. But I'm here to say that opinion is entirely wrong. But I do agree with him. The Chiefs, not agree with him. I do. The only sentiment that I will agree and argue is that the Chiefs will be contenders for the foreseeable future. Like, that's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. They have the best quarterback in the league. He's 24. Come on now. Yeah, that's I can understand that. But just there's so many, like, when it comes to football, there's so many different variables that just, first of all, injuries. Okay? That's a big part of football. Especially football, the most injuries. 2, just the nature of the NFL, players leaving. Like, who knows what players, like, they won't be able to resign every single player. Who knows what players will get. Obviously, good players attract interest from other teams as well. So sometimes, players are enticed to seek elsewhere, to, see if the grass is greener on the other side, seek other opportunities, so that happens. So injuries, you got players just naturally leaving. Andy Reid isn't the youngest coach in the world. Him and Sean McVay are not the same age. So, who knows how many years he's willing to, continue to keep coaching. And then also just the game of football. You just never know. Like, even if you look at, although the Chiefs were able to bounce back from every single situation, you think every single year they're going to be able to bounce back from a 3-touchdown deficit in each playoff game they play? Come on now. That's not really realistic. So, Those couple of variables are why I don't think that the Chiefs will be winning any. I mean, I can see the Chiefs winning another Super Bowl, but I don't know about 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, nah, I don't know about that in a row either. No, I don't know about that. I can see the Chiefs winning the next, like, all right, they won this year. I can see the Chiefs winning the next 2 of 3, or 2 of 4, something like that. But yeah, I don't know about consecutively, whatever. So Chris Jones, I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that one. You're a great player. You're a great defensive tackle. You're all-pro defensive tackle. I'm happy that you got paid. Get that check. Get that check. Get that check. Right? She said, "Damn boy, up." Right? That's Lil Cotty. For those of you who don't know, so that's one take that I'm gonna have to. You're goofy. But other than that, I do rock with the Chiefs and their opportunities in the future. And another thing I wanted to get to was, Oof. All right, so I reported it earlier and discussed that the NFL players are kind of fed up with the league and the way things are being operated, and they feel like their safety isn't really brought to the forefront of and during these trying times, like as you guys all know, we are in the midst of a pandemic, and players. Rightfully so. This is when you see, not when you see, but this is when you understand that players are more than just players. You know what I mean? They are people's brothers, people's cousins, people's fathers. husbands. They are providers. They provide for their families. So the players have been adamant that they don't want to come back and play unless the conditions are safe. So, and also they also don't want to play preseason games, which I don't blame them. And I didn't know this until today, but I'm going to discuss it later on today. So they don't want to play preseason games. They want daily testing, and they want to. Yeah, I think those are the main things that they wanted to get situated. So the NFL players in yesterday's meeting, or was it today or yesterday? I don't know, one or two. That the NFL, the players are off. The players don't want to play preseason games, and I don't blame them. The reason why players don't want to play preseason games, especially veterans who have been in the league for X amount of years, is I didn't know this until today, but if you preseason player, like when you play preseason games, you only get $1,500 per game. So in 1 month, you're only making about $6,000. Like there's people in corporate America and just regular workers who make that type of money. So I understand exactly why veterans and players who have been in the league for X amount of years want to get rid of the preseason entirely. But the only people that benefit from playing preseason games are undrafted rookies and people trying to make teams. So, I understand why certain players want to get rid of it, because it's low-key like, why am I getting paid to do something that somebody who didn't get drafted, or somebody who isn't as good as me, or somebody who's in an entirely different situation as me is trying to is in, and we're getting paid the same amount of money. We got a dude right here from Texas Southern University fighting for a roster spot versus Patrick Mahomes, who is the franchise quarterback. They're getting paid the same to play the same game for the preseason. So I understand why players, especially now in today's climate, like, let's try and minimize as many games that's played as possible. And the preseason will have to go. The league hasn't agreed to anything yet, but I think it would be in the league's best interest to do that. Like, it just doesn't make any sense not to. But, yeah. So the NFL and the NFLPA also agreed to daily COVID testings for the first 2 weeks of training camp. I guess you could clap it up for that one, but we'll see. And another thing that I wanted to know is if the test rate is below 5% after 2 weeks, they will scale back to every other day. If not below 5% after 2 weeks, daily testing will continue until it falls to below 5%. And honestly, I would have to say I agree with that. If that's the owner's solution and their compromise to and their way of attacking COVID, then I want to give them a salute and applaud, I guess, because that's pretty good. It's a good 5% is decent, at best. You know what I mean? And obviously, I think this would allow players to feel more safe. But I think also, which wasn't discussed, that needs to be discussed, is what happens to players who want to opt out. What happens to players who they actually can't afford to play? Like, you know what I mean? Like, they have family members who are at risk of catching COVID and X, Y, and Z. So what about those type of players? Like, what about if somebody like Avery Bradley was in the NBA where his son has respiratory issues and he doesn't want to continue to put him at further risks or stuff like that? So I think that needs to be solved, and that, as well as canceling preseason games. Those are two things that need to be solved, because regardless of the 5% thing, there will be individuals who still just can't take that risk and put their family, because there is no bubble. The NFL is not doing a bubble or employing any sort of bubble. You know what I mean? Because one, they're too large to have a bubble, and two, like, it's not going to work, to be honest. And football is a contact sport, so you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. And then it's like I said yesterday, the NFL just looks really bad because, I don't know. They had so much time to prepare and get this whole thing situated, but it just didn't seem like they moved with a sense of urgency until the players put them on spot, which it should never take that. It should never take players attacking your credibility and attacking the front office and the legitimacy of the way they're handling their business to get some change implored. You know what I mean? Like, it should never take that. And once again, I don't. NFL looks goofy when it comes to that, and yeah, like honestly, I do hope the players get every single thing that they're asking for. It seems like they are slowly getting what they want. I agree with the daily testing for the first 2 weeks. I think it should be daily testing the entire training camp, and then it should only move to testing every other day during the season. Okay, who cares how expensive it is? Get it done. And the last topic I want to get on, Russell Wilson. Okay, I honestly feel like how do I put this? The Seahawks are employing the same sort of managerial strategy that the Packers have employed for X amount of years, that FC Barcelona has employed for the same amount of years. Like, okay, we have a really, really good player. Let's just see where he can carry us with as minimal help as possible. And I'm here to say that's terrible. Okay? That is terrible. It's been a while since the Seahawks should have re-signed the Jadeveon Clowney. The Seahawks need to get Russell Wilson elite receiver help. I don't think Russell Wilson has ever had an elite receiver since being in the league. Russell Wilson's like, okay, his rookie year, Sidney Rice, who else? Doug Baldwin. Think they had Golden Tate. All these dudes are not elite receivers, and even now they don't have elite receivers. Jermaine Kearse, Paul Richardson. To maximize Russell Wilson's shelf life, as he is turning, I think he's 31 right now or 32. To maximize his shelf life and the remainder of his career, the Seahawks need to get better talent around him on the offensive side of the ball. Their defensive side is solid. They can improve that, but keeping Russell Wilson upright and happy needs to be one of their main focuses and a priority for them every single season. How can we continue to improve on the offensive side of the football to keep Russell Wilson happy as well as healthy? Because, obviously at one point, I know he signed a new contract. I think, was it 2 years ago? At one point, the contract is going to, run out. And based on the way the Seahawks are managed this time is going to define whether or not Russell Wilson is going to re-sign with them. I mean, if the Seahawks are not able to sniff anywhere near a NFC Championship or a Super Bowl, you could count him out of there, honestly. Count him out of there. Because then at that point, he's going to be like, all right, it's been – this last time the Seahawks played in the Super Bowl, it's been 5 years. I don't even think the Seahawks have been to an NFC Championship since going to – because I know the very next year they lost to the Panthers. I don't think they made the playoffs in 2017. 2018 they lost to the Cowboys. The 2019 season they lost to the Cowboys. One of those years they didn't make the playoffs. And then last year they lost to the Packers in the divisional round. So it's been 5 years since Russell Wilson has made a deep push into the playoffs. 5 years since he's had an extremely elite team, and over the past couple of years, as the Legion of Boom declined, the Seahawks declined, and even so much so where now they're getting so much praise for being able to work with I wouldn't say minimal that they have, but obviously the roster is not as strong as it was earlier in the 2010s and that decade, like the middle of the 2010s when they were like of the most elite teams in the world. So not elite teams in the world, elite teams in the NFL, but I definitely think that the Seahawks need to make it a priority of keeping Russell Wilson happy and keeping elite talent around him in terms of receivers, getting him a better tight end. Like, when's the last time he played a really good tight end? Jimmy Graham. But even Jimmy Graham, he was a shade of what he was in New Orleans. Like the New Orleans Jimmy, like no team has got the New Orleans Jimmy Graham besides New Orleans. Jimmy Graham was a shade of himself on Seattle, shade of himself on the Packers. Like, yeah. Receivers, like I said, I ran through them, not really elite, eye-popping dudes. Like, besides Doug Baldwin was probably the best one, and he was like, not glorified. He was a very good slot receiver. I don't think he should have been the number one receiver, but he was a very good receiver at that. But, obviously they could have got better. But the Seahawks even had Brandon Marshall at one point. Brandon Marshall, like old Brandon Marshall. Last legs Brandon Marshall. But that's going to wrap up today's podcast. Once again, I'm going to encourage everybody who's listening to this podcast on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify to share this podcast with anybody you know that loves sports. Share it. Share, and share again. And to those of you who are watching this podcast on my YouTube channel, like this video, comment on the video, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell notification. All these things only take a couple seconds. Don't play yourself. Feel me? Help the boy out. You feel me? Thank you very much for tuning in, for rocking with me, for listening. Let's shake the room. I'm bringing heat like Pop Smoke on the track. I got y'all. And yeah, shake the room, movie, fuck up the industry. Bow.